The Puck Portfolio with Andy MacNeil.
Hey, welcome to the Puck Portfolio. It is Thursday, May 9th. The NHL playoffs are in full swing. We're in the second round. And I am joined on today's stream by Tim Kalinowski from the Action Network. How you doing, Timmy?
I'm doing okay, I guess, Andy. Edmonton money line really stung last night. I was hoping to not have to talk about any hockey or betting today, but here we are.
Well, I appreciate you joining the show. It is tough to come back from last night. I also had the Bruins on the money line, which was a disaster. Both bets, fun while they lasted. The Bruins, they got out to that 1-0 lead, took it into the second period. They played pretty well in the first period, I thought, but after they scored that goal, it was all Panthers, and that's the way it stayed for the rest of that game. So let's start there. The Boston Bruins and the Florida Panthers tied at 1. The series is shifting back to Boston for games 3, or not back to Boston, but to Boston for games 3 and 4. I give the Bruins about a 40.5% chance of winning this series now. So the Panthers in pretty good shape. Pretty dominant performance from Florida. Boston did not look good at all at even strength in the latter two periods. And it's hard to see them winning if they continue to play this way. But we saw a pretty good performance from them in game 1. Hard to know if that is just, Florida being rusty a little bit. And then we saw what the real version of the Panthers in game 2. But I don't expect the Bruins to go down too easy, but I'm not necessarily interested in betting them at this short price as a home underdog.
Yeah, look, I mean, there was a lot of strong trends about teams that were essentially rust versus teams that are just coming off a game 7 win. And I look at game 2 as kind of the Bruins have been carrying on the momentum. It was like having a screwdriver on a Sunday morning, the shampoo effect, keep it going. And then it really hits you on Monday and Tuesday. And that was kind of game 2 for the Bruins. That's what I saw there. And look, I like Florida as a short favorite at Boston in game 3. I think that, I looked at game 1 as I use the analogy like tennis a lot. Someone can win the first set 6-love, and it's just still, you just lost the first set. That's all it is. So I didn't read a ton into, the actual scoreboard in game 1. I bet the Panthers to win the series before it started at -170. And it's really because of just how much belief I have in Florida. I just think that they can beat you a number of different ways. When Bobrovsky's on, that gives them kind of an X factor over a lot of other teams, not really the Bruins, but in terms of just their overall portfolio, they're just so stacked. In the Bruins, outside of Pastrnak in terms of lethal goal scoring ability, you're looking at Charlie Coyle, Jake DeBrusk, Danton Heinen. Like, it's just super thin.
For sure, yeah. And Boston is very thin down the middle. That's something that's going to haunt them as long as they're in the Stanley Cup playoffs, especially as they go on here, because these teams just continue to get better and better at the center position, right? So, I mean, Florida, an obvious favorite for a bunch of obvious reasons. But yeah, I think Boston can take some solace in the fact that I don't think Sergei Bobrovsky is necessarily shown that he's really been sharp yet in this series. Of course, Florida was pretty controlling in periods 2 and 3 in game 2. So I still think the Bruins have a chance to get to Bobrovsky and expose him for lack of a better term. Not that he is, any showing any glaring holes here, but Bobrovsky has some holes for sure. So I think Boston can get to him, but yeah, the lack of elite shooters is going to plague them. Right now, I've got Boston as a +118 underdog. That is my projected line for game 3. So right around that -120 price, -125 price, I guess, for the Panthers now at a lot of sports books. Currently at NorthStar Bets, the series -118. That's the game 2 price. My bad. I've got 2 windows up. The series, I have the same window up on both, the same screen on both windows. So there you go. The series price. I have no idea what it is right now. I will figure that in a minute. But
it's in the
yeah.
minus 180, minus 180, 190 range.
Yeah, thank you, Timmy. I appreciate you saving my ass here once again. But yeah, let's talk about another blown lead. This one, a much more disastrous blown lead, of course. My son and I, it's his first year getting into the Stanley Cup playoffs. He's an Oilers fan, obviously, as we're residing here in Edmonton. But he went to bed pretty happy. Zach Hyman's his favorite player. Saw him score a pretty nice goal in the first period. The Oilers had a 2-0 lead. And I thought I was going to be able to give him good news in the morning, but I mean, there's a part of me of a little bit evil, I guess, inside, because I like breaking his heart in the morning, telling him that hey, the Oilers blew it. They're a bunch of losers. 4-1, lose 5-4. What you think about that game, Timmy?
Oh, it was a total heartbreak. I wish I had went to bed and you could have broken me that news, because watching it unfold in real time might have been just as bad. I was getting ready to go to bed and I'm thinking, these games can be funny in the playoffs. Maybe I'll stay up. And, like I said, I was on Edmonton and to see Vancouver come back, and then you can't go to bed because you're so irritated. And on the East Coast here, that means like 2:30 in the morning. But in terms of the actual game, I predicted before this series that I was giving Vancouver, I feel like, more love than a lot of the mainstream media. And part of the reason was I think Vancouver can play a number of different ways. I think a lot of people were seeing how Vancouver played against Nashville, and that they were just going to apply it to this series and say, okay, well, Edmonton's just going to steamroll them if Vancouver thinks that they can, go the Nashville route. Like, Nashville obviously isn't nearly as lethal as Edmonton. But I was saying, like, I think Vancouver knows that they can run with them, and I think that they know that they should run with them, because when it turns into that wide open style of hockey, Edmonton exposes themselves just as much on the back end with Skinner, obviously their defense of deficiencies. And so I was excited. I was on the over too. So I was excited to see that kind of come to fruition. And I think that's kind of what we can expect for the rest of the series here. Like, Vancouver can make Edmonton pay, like, big time when Edmonton goes through those, ice tilting type stretches.
Yeah, I mean, the Oilers did the exact opposite in Game 1 versus the Canucks, and we know the history with the Oilers in Game 1. They have not performed well to open series in the McDavid era. They did defeat the Kings in Game 1 in the last round, and the Kings pushed back in that game after going down big early, but Edmonton, they kept their foot on the gas in Game 1 of that series, and they really put away the Kings. They didn't give them a chance. They didn't to make it close enough. I was really surprised, and I know, like, a lot of that is Vancouver pushing, but I was really surprised at the lack of push back from Edmonton in Game 1. They had 8 shots in the final 40 minutes. That is just, not going to cut it in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Sitting on any lead, even a 3-goal lead with that much time left to play. Just not the kind of strategy. Like you said, the Oilers are gonna, if they're, they've got one good strategy, and that's to rely on their offensive instincts, to rely on their attack, to be relentless. I think that when the entire team clamps down on defense, guys start to stand around. They're very panicky in their own zone. It's not pretty to watch at all. So it'll be interesting to see how Edmonton bounce back in Game 2. I've still got them as a series favorite here, winning the series about 57.5% of the time. That lines up pretty closely with what we're seeing at sports books. Speaking of those series prices, I do now have those up. The Boston Bruins, they're plus 145 on the series line at NorthStar Bets. The Florida Panthers minus 177 on the other side. The Edmonton Oilers minus 130. So I've got it a little bit higher than that, but not enough value where I would make a bet. I think, given, you're getting probably better odds actually now on Game 2. Yeah, for sure. Then no, minus 130 seems to be about the best consensus price, but there is a minus 122, a minus 126, and a minus 125 out there. So, I mean, I think I would opt to bet the Oilers in Game 2, if anything. But I'm going to make that decision on game day. We'll see where this one goes, because I'm not going to take the minus 130 right now. But yeah, Edmonton, I mean, it's kind of funny that they thought they could sit back for 2 periods and and win a hockey game. But to your point about Vancouver being able to beat you in a number of ways, I am surprised that they managed to score 5 even strength goals in a game. In that manner, because down the stretch, I mean, their last 25 games of the regular season, the Canucks, I believe they've scored. I believe they had 5 out of their last 25 games scoring more than 2 even strength goals in a game. So it wasn't something they were very good at down the stretch. They ranked 23rd in the last 3 months of the season in even strength scoring. So I was pretty surprised to see them put up those kind of numbers. But I guess good sign for the Canucks and the Oilers. Their deadly power play. I mean, it struck early, about 3 minutes into the game. That was their only opportunity, though. Vancouver went 0 for 3 on the power play. So not a lot of special teams. I wouldn't expect every game to be like that. I expect these games to get pretty chippy at some point here. It's probably in game 2, so could see a bit of a penalty fest. And you would imagine that would work out in favor of the Oilers right now, because we talked about this before we started the show. Teams with good power plays, they've been humming along, right, Timmy?
Yeah, that's kind of been my take here, and it's not really earth shattering, but I used to have an old coach who used to say that 5-on-5 is largely a crapshoot. You need, yes, you can dominate, but you still need a bounce there, a bounce here. But the way you win games and a way that you are never out of a game is with a good power play. And not just from, a numbers perspective of, and hey, we get our goals from the power play, but it's just also an overall vibe. Like, okay, we're down 2, we're just a power play away from being in this game. And I feel like New York kind of has that mojo to them of, oh, okay, well, we're just a power play away here, and we'll take our chances. So, you've seen, to me, a lot of these teams that have lost, like the post-mortems of, and obviously we love talking about the Leafs, but like so much is made about what they did here, this lineup change, this, that. And like, I start every post-game report, which is looking at the special teams. I think it tells, 90% of the story, because if you have a team that lost, I say to you, well, you went 0 for 3 on the power play. What'd you expect? and that is kind of, what I've especially been looking at the playoffs here, but where I get stuck and have a hard time is predicting playoff success in the future, right? Because statistics always tell us there's going to be some sort of regression back to the mean one way or the other. So, for instance, the Rangers, I'm like, well, are they going to get their power plays next game? Like, I don't know. And I think that's where some of this falls on coaching and adjustments within series. I think that Boston, Toronto's failure to make adjustments on their power play is kind of what cooked them. So maybe the step further is, where you power rank coaches and their ability to make in series in-game adjustments.
Yeah, and I mean, it helps to have the personnel to convert in those high leverage situations, right? I mean, you look at the Rangers roster, and it is pretty stacked in that regard. They have a lot of playmakers, a lot of guys that can make the big plays at the big times, and their power play has been great all season long. The Canes and the Rangers will get back at it tonight in game number 3. The series is in Carolina now. We've seen a pretty big shift, obviously, in the odds, with the Canes now having home ice advantage. The current odds at NorthStar Bets plus 145 on the side of the Rangers. I think that's a decent price. I've got this game minus 139 in favor of the Hurricanes. I think, and when it's all said and done, we might look back at this one and think, maybe from a power rankings perspective, Carolina is a much better team. But, when they play each other, there's just something here. The Rangers have had their number, specifically Igor Shesterkin has had their number. And they've played pretty good in this series, I think, all things considered. I think Carolina hasn't dominated like you would expect at even strength in this series yet. So I don't think the Rangers are necessarily lucky to be up 2-0. I think they're fortunate for sure, getting a double overtime win, but I would not be surprised to see them take a 3-0 series lead. I think there's going to be another close game here on Thursday, and I'm going to lock in a half unit bet on the Rangers at plus 145. and hope that happens. And hope their power play continues to hum along, like you said. So I don't know. Do you have any action on tonight's games? I know we're going to get to Dallas and Colorado here shortly, but
yeah, I mean, from a numbers and value perspective, you're bang on. I don't know how you can watch the first two games and not see and not be salivating over the value with the Rangers there. However, I bet the Hurricanes at -160. Second game two ended. And I just believe, look, road teams tend to do well in the playoffs. There tends to be too much love to home ice advantage. But one thing that's been pretty strong is New York takes care of business on home ice and Carolina takes care of business on home ice. I know I'm paying a tax for the must win, last leg, all those sort of things. But I'm just going off of trying to predict the game and paying the price for trying to predict the game. I think I'd be shocked if Carolina doesn't come out extremely strong here in the first period. I think they could get a friendly whistle to extend this series, and which would help them on the special teams. And I just think that I really trust Brendan Moore. I think he's one of the best. Going 0 for 10 on the power play, that cannot should not continue for the Hurricanes. So to me, I just feel like a lot of things went right for New York in the first two games, and the way these series kind of happen, I expect more things to go right for Carolina, even though I don't feel great about it.
I have to ask you two non-hockey betting related questions. First, the Natchez incident with Jacob Trouba. What did you think of that? For me, I mean, like, what are you mad at, man? You want me to just stand there and get like? We can debate all day whether he slipped or whether he, or he took a dive to get out of the way. But I mean, regardless, like, I mean, what are we doing here? I don't know. Like, the guy was coming at him like a torpedo. I don't know. I don't think he has anybody to be mad at besides himself, right? You're putting yourself in danger making a play like that.
No, 100%. I mean, to me, like, arguments about this sort of stuff, I don't take super seriously. I think it's just like kind of fun. I appreciate how passionate and how, polarizing conversations like this can be. But I always look at it just from the perspective of I was a small forward, when I played, and I've been in that situation, and with some gigantic goon-like defenseman. Not that Trouba's a full-out goon, but he can punish you.
He can launching
at you parallel to the ice. I would be doing the same exact thing, and then I would be getting up and barking to him, saying, "You meathead, stop trying to take my head off." That's just my perspective of how I would always see those sort of things. I understand it's part of the game, but for me, like, I've been in that situation where it's just like, I'm little. I don't like, that's what I'm supposed to do. Like, the best players, right? Like, with smaller guys that have longevity in their career, one of the greatest things that they do is they're great at not getting hit like squared up.
Brad Marchand,
Patrick Kane. Like, have you ever seen anyone square them up? And that's a skill. So, and I think that is a skill and valued just as much as a big punishing defenseman can instill fear into a team. I think it's like net. That's how it goes.
Yeah, I'm with you, Timmy. And I guess the last thing I want to talk about before we move on to the Dallas Stars and the Colorado Avalanche, who will be playing game 2 tonight, is just Carolina. What do you think happens if the Canes get eliminated in a quick series here, or just eliminated in general in round 2? This team has been a perennial Stanley Cup favorite for a while now, and they haven't been able to get over the hump. Haven't made it to a Stanley Cup final, and this year they've gone all in. Jake Gensel, it's not working out so far. So what do you think happens here? Do you think there's a coaching change? Not that I think there should be or anything like that, but do you think they blow this up? Or is it status quo in Carolina?
Yeah, I don't think that there's a shot in hell that they blow it up. I have a lot of friends in the Carolina area that are also kind of have their ear to the organization. And one thing a lot of those people tell me are that Dundon is just, this is how he rolls. He runs this thing like a business. I think that we can look at prior actions to predict future actions. And that is, a guy who has been very frugal when it comes to things like draft capital and trade deadline type stuff. And also in, having this battle with this head coach, it seems like every 2 or 3 years who just wants his assistants to be paid. I think ownership like this is, and again, he's a billionaire, so I'm not really going to tell him what or how to do it, but I think he deems a successful franchise company as a team who gets home playoff dates. And, you get the gate there. They do they're a great regular season team. They have a great home ice advantage. If you're looking at it from like how probably Dundon looks at this thing, he's got a tremendous business operation success. And,
2 or 3 rounds of playoff sellouts, take it. Most teams would take that, right? Every single year. It always stuck with me. I know how the
Buffalo Sabres would feel about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It always stuck with me. I don't remember who said it, but there was an owner I heard on the radio one time, and it wasn't the NHL, but it was another sport, and he was talking about how owning a team was basically just an invite to a new club, a new group of rich people, right? Like, I mean, it's he said he this guy said that he had gotten invited to parties that he didn't know about, basically, after he owned a team. So I think there's a little bit of that, like you said. Maybe winning doesn't matter as much as you think it does sometimes.
Yeah, and I don't know what's right and what's wrong, right? I can't put myself in those shoes. I would love to, but when you take into account, like, things like the pandemic and flat cap, and this is like a very hard league, I think, to be consistently good and make consistent, big time profit. And he is seen from a economical, in company organizational standpoint, how to keep, being in the positive.
Yeah, for sure. It'll be interesting to see if the Canes can get back in this thing tonight, or else the Rangers going to be pushing them to the brink of elimination. Hoping to talk to Arthur Staple about the Rangers playoff run early next week. Talked to Lieboff this morning a little bit, and he's already, kind of coming to terms with the thing that he does not want to come to terms with, and that is a Rangers Stanley Cup run. So
you can't talk to him. He's too delusional. He's too delusional. You have to pick your spots when to value Lieboff's opinion, and he has a lot of them, but he changes like the tide, and so you have to know who you're dealing with going in.
You're right about that. But we've got one last game to talk about, and the Colorado Avalanche are up 1-0 in their series versus the Dallas Stars. Big 3-0, or comeback from 3-0 to win 4-3 in game number 1. They are now a minus 215 series favorite. Dallas plus 175 on the series line at NorthStar Bets. I think the series price should be around minus 150. So yeah, okay, there's some value on the Dallas Stars. Technically, I'm already invested in this team to win this series, unfortunately, at a terrible minus 110 price, with hindsight being at our disposal now. But I think I'm gonna just stand pat on this one, Timmy. The Dallas Stars played a brutal opening game at even strength. I was really disappointed in that. Of course, they jumped out to that 3-0 lead in the first period. They own just 28% of the expected goals at even strength, according to Evolving Hockey. 42% of the shot attempts. So yeah, not a good performance from Dallas. Would like to see them bounce back, obviously, but I'm not gonna invest more at minus 130, which is pretty much what we're seeing. Some minus 125 out there, but minus 130, minus 135, minus 140 even. That's where I think it should be. I think this is a fair price. I'm in on the Stars at minus 110. Hopefully they'll even it up. But yeah, I didn't see enough out of this Stars team to want to put any more money on them. Are you on them? Are you on the Avs? What's the story here, Timmy?
Well, again, I know it doesn't make for a good betting show for people to talk about bets that they made when they weren't on the show. But I got Dallas to win the cup 25-1 when they were down 2-0 to Vegas. So that makes me feel good. And I also have an Avalanche 10-1 future in the bag as well. So I'm happy to just kind of watch this series play out. But I will say from just a game to game perspective here, Colorado is now, what they did to Winnipeg and Hellerbuck not being able to, weather the storm. And I know that's asking an awful lot, but that's kind of the recipe of how you have to beat Colorado. Like you have to start, it starts with good goaltending. And I think Ottinger wasn't good enough in game one. So for me, if you're handicapping the series going forward, if anything at all, you have to wait and see what kind of performance you get out of Ottinger. No matter what the result is in game two, he has to look better. Again, and I know maybe the trend is just Colorado makes really good goalies, look pedestrian, but that's just that's kind of the formula. I actually have a lean on the under in this game at 6.5. To me, I think that the game script of game one had a lot to do with that flying over to the over there. I expect Dallas to have some good pushback in game two, and part of that pushback will be reliant on tightening things up defensively. And I also think it's just natural for road teams up a game in a series to be fine playing that type of game. A more low event, you hear the thing, a good road first period, 0-0. I think that's something we could see here. Depending on what model you look at, expected goals in this game, 5-on-5, they all were going to come in on the under. So I'm hoping for no power play goals and a little bit of a staring contest in game two.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, like I don't see a lot of roads to winning games where Dallas wins, 3-1 or 3-2 or something. I think these are going to be high. I think these are going to have to be high scoring games for the Stars to beat the Avs. I just don't see Colorado. Colorado's going to get their 3 goals one way or the other, right? And then it's kind of a toss up from there. Yeah, the way they're playing right now, and that's 6 straight playoff games with 4+ goals. So the Stars are going to have to bring it. Need more from Rupe Hintz, Joe Pavelski. I know he's long in the tooth, but he needs
Hintz
to be.
Has been brutal. Hintz has
been
brutal, Andy. I'm shocked. I don't know if he's dealing with something or what, but he has too many stretches in shifts where he looks almost disinterested. Like maybe what it feels like to me, disinterested might not be the right word, but frustration to a point where you get like that disinterested, like, oh, screw this. He seems very, pressing a bit. And then when it doesn't, he's giving it, when you're pressing a bit, you give it like 3 seconds to fix itself. And when it doesn't, you just get triple as frustrated.
Yeah. Yeah, just the 1 goal for Hintz in 8 playoff games so far. Matthew Shane, I mean, he's struggled to produce too, but he's looked pretty engaged at least. I mean, he's been involved in some stuff. But yeah, Wyatt Johnson, Jason Robertson leading the way for the Stars. Johnson, he's just been unreal, man. It's going to be fun to watch this kid as the years go on. Looks to be a real player, and might be the Stars' best.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And Stan Coven as well. I think he's fantastic. And I think he's built for playoff hockey with that motor he has on him. And, another thing that's going to have to change as well is the Heiskanen and Harley pairing wasn't good in game one. And that's, starts and ends pretty much right there, that and the goaltending. So that those guys have to, that pair especially has to carry their weight.
Yeah, not for lack of trying. Stankoven, he's got no goals so far in the playoffs, but he's got 16 shots, which is 5th most on the team so far. So he's in there. He
mixes it up. It's a lot to ask.
He'll break through.
It's a lot to ask.
Yeah, he'll break through if the Stars can stay in the playoffs. But yeah, I've got some Stars futures too, so that's another reason why I'm just kind of hesitant to invest anymore into Dallas at this point, because I'll make it pretty good if they go on a long run. But yeah, just the Rangers half unit play plus 145 for me tonight. It's the playoffs, man. I don't think it's the time to overreach. I think the lines are pretty sharp for the most part. Some edges are going to present themselves here and there. I mean, the Rangers got up to plus 157 at some sports books earlier today, really early this morning. and then came all the way back down to where they are right now. So, these things kind of come and go, very, very time sensitive. But yeah, shop around and you'll find a good price at NorthStar Bets plus 145. And you're just leaning towards the under in the Colorado Dallas game tonight. Is that right, Timmy?
Yeah, I played it for a half unit. And then, like I said, I have Carolina at minus 160 for a smaller play as well. To me, you're right, Andy. The playoffs, it's not a time for reach. These lines are extremely sharp. But for me, I bet enough so that I can bet tomorrow. So, that I think in a lot of casual bettors, that's kind of a good strategy, right? Like, I'm not unloading on these games. I like watching them. I like having a taste on something. And for me, when I turn the game on and someone says, what do I take? Sort of an answer. And again, I just bet enough. I've been betting a long time and I always can bet tomorrow.
That's good advice, Tim. Thanks for joining the show, buddy. Have a great day. Enjoy the games. Go Bruins, even though you bet on the Panthers like a traitor. But yeah, all right. Whatever.
Thanks, Andy. Go Bees. Go Bees. It's emotional hedge more than anything.
All right. Take care, buddy.
Thanks, Andy.